All right, welcome to our Startup with Ferris live stream. Thank you for tuning in. So, what's new in the world of entrepreneurship? Pricing remains the topic du jour, and we have a lot to cover on pricing. As a matter of fact, today we'll cover three models and have a bonus one for you. But first, I wanted to share with you a story about two business owners I advised recently. They both reached out independently, and they're from different industries. They both are faced with the same exact challenge. They each had a business for a number of years. They didn't grow that business a lot in terms of staffing and in terms of having sort of their own systems and processes. They relied a lot on contractors and part timers, and then they managed to earn a good living, and they were profitable. And then recently, and quite suddenly, revenue dropped almost down to zero. And this wasn't an external factor like a pandemic or anything like that. But what happened is they had disproportionately relied on one customer, a whale. And that customer, that whale, sent them a whole lot of work week in, week out, month in, month out for a number of years. In which is great because you have a revenue stream, you have a recurring revenue stream, you have leads coming your way, you have projects coming your way without having to do any lead generation, any marketing. But when that one customer, for whatever reason, when that one customer drops out of the picture, maybe because of a merger and acquisition, maybe because of an issue with that vertical where that customer is in, or a variety of factors, or maybe some market dynamics. But if you are a small business, even a mid-sized business, and your revenue, 80-90% of your revenue is based on one customer, you could end up in the same scenario where all of a sudden your revenue stream comes to a halt. So fortunately for these two founders, they're smart, they're resourceful, they've built their industry contact, and I think hopefully with some of the tips I shared, they'll pivot and they'll do well. But the lesson here is, and maybe we should cover this on a different live stream entirely, is the lesson here is to diversify your revenue streams. So if you're lucky and if you're fortunate to have a solid revenue stream from one customer, take it. Of course, 100% grow that contract, but at the same time, don't don't stop your lead generation activities. Don't stop your marketing activities. Go out there and network and build your network, and also help others. And, don't just be so consumed by this one customer and those set of deliverables that you have, that you ignore the rest of the business. And build systems and build processes that you can then gradually bring that back up and scale those processes. So it is a tough situation when you have one customer that is sending a lot of work. It's a tough situation where you can ignore everything else because revenue is coming in, but you don't want to wake up one day and everything you've built in terms of revenue and profits, and maybe the people maybe you start to bring on board as employees, then you don't have any revenue. So get that revenue from that one customer, but then build processes and build systems, and do some type of lead generation where you have some other revenue streams that you can then scale. When this one main revenue stream drops or comes to a halt, you can then quickly scale something that's already established, one network event a month, when you were busy with this other one big whale, one customer. Then when you're already in the habit of going to a monthly networking event, when that customer stop sending you business, maybe you can scale that network activities to go weekly or go twice a week. But you already have something going already in terms of networking, in terms of process to take those leads that you get from the networking events and put them in your CRM, instead of maybe having someone besides you. If you're very consumed and busy with this one customer, have someone else on your team take care of the other customers. So again, the lesson here is, yes, take care of that one customer, grow, scale, upsell, grow that relationship 100%. At the same time, don't neglect other parts of the business, and build some processes that can be scaled if that customer, that whale, disappears for whatever reason. So again, I think those two founders will do well. It was a hard lesson for them. I don't think I've experienced something like drastic like that, where revenue almost came to a halt. So I do wish them well. And again, if you're in that situation, examine what else you can do to build a second, maybe a second tier or a second revenue stream from from a different set of customers, or maybe different tier of customers that you can scale later if the whale disappears. But today we're talking about pricing. I don't want you to figure out all that on your own. So just so you know where we are in the series, we started by answering some questions that entrepreneurs sent my way about pricing. How do I price? Is it hourly? Is it project? How do I do things sort of a value based? So we covered all of that last week: hourly, project based, and value based. We also in previous weeks we covered the important aspect of positioning. If you don't position yourself as an expert, as someone who can deliver and provide value to customers, nobody's going to buy from you. And then we also talked a little bit about the very early stage entrepreneurs. What is it that you need to get the first few clients? So pricing, and I'll give you a hint there, pricing is secondary. If you're just starting, you got to get those logos, you got to go out and sell. So you can see all of those live streams. We have them on the channel, on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, Startup at Fairs, and we also have them on Twitter. We have them on other channels as well, including LinkedIn. So that is all what we've covered last week, or the last few weeks. Today we will be covering three pricing models. We'll talk about tier-based pricing. We'll talk about retainer-based, and we'll also talk about productizing. And I have a bonus model for you. Before we get into it, let's see if we have any questions, any comments from the community. Denise, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it. And good morning, good afternoon to you. I thank you. And Denise and I had an amazing chat on her podcast supposed to be on Friday. Due to weather, we had it on Saturday. So if you haven't listened to Denise's podcast, you definitely should do that. You can search Denise Griffiths, and she has a computer science education, her educational background. She got into sales, and she is very good at it. And she just listen to her podcast. Thank you for joining, Denise. I appreciate it. So on a couple of logistics before we go into the episode. So if you are watching now, if you are listening now or later, tuning in later, please add your questions. Send any thoughts you have in the comment section below, or direct message me if it's something very maybe specific you don't want to share with the public. But just let me know if you like what you're hearing, and then what other topics you'd like us to cover. This live stream is dedicated to our community, to entrepreneurs who want to either they have an idea and they haven't started, so they want to start a business, and also entrepreneurs who started and they're struggling, be it marketing, sales, back office, you name it. So we cover a lot of topics, but I'd love to hear from you on I want to get feedback on what we're producing here, and also about some future topics you'd like us to cover. All righty. So let's jump right in. The first model we'll talk about is tiered based pricing. So there'll probably be a few buzzwords in today's live stream, but it just comes with the territory. So when we talk about tiered based pricing, there are different ways of doing tiers, but in feature based tiered pricing, your services are offered at different levels, each with its own set of features and the corresponding price points. I'll give you some examples in a little bit. And in each pricing model, what we did last week and what I'll do this week as well is we'll define the pricing model. Then we'll talk about its pros and cons, and then when it's best to use that model, and we'll give you some examples. So this way, you know which model fits for your business at the growth phase that you are in. So that's, like I said, you can do tiers based on features. You can do tiers based on volume. You can do tiers based on usage. So think of a software consulting firm that's offering, let's say they want to do tiered pricing, and they want to offer They offer development and maintenance services. So they might have two tiers. Again, you can have multiple tiers, but let's say they have a standard and a premium tiers. So in the standard, again, I've seen founders, they call it, oh, the basic tier. So folks in marketing, you don't want to use the word basic, use standard. I remember I was in Rochester. I think we were pitching Rochester Tell way back then, and we had this seasoned salesperson. I was a project manager, and I said, yeah, we have this basic plan. And then after the meeting, he said, Ferris, we don't say basic. Nobody wants to buy basic. So standard, you have standard and you have premium. So let's say this back to the software company. They want to offer two packages, two tiers. One is standard, one is a premium. So for example, the standard could be you offer 8 to 5 from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and you provide basic support. You have just say what basic. You provide standard level support during those hours, and bug fixes, of course, part of the software maybe that you've sold to the company, to the customers. Now, a premium tier can have things like beyond, in addition to the standard level, you can have, let's say, 24/7 priority support. So they can call, they can email, and they will get a response, around in that time, in that 24/7. You can offer, for example, I've seen it where you can offer a faster response rate. For example, you can say our standard response is 1 business day, and then our premium response is within 2 business hours. So those things you can differentiate the two offers. So it's clear to the customer what is it that they're paying for. So with this tiered pricing, clients, they pick the tier that suits their needs and obviously suits their budget, and it makes it flexible, based, it's very clear and different requirements, right? So I'll give you another flavor of this. You can have, as many tiers as you want. I've seen it where people have bronze, silver, gold, platinum. My recommendation, especially if this is an early stage founder who's listening here or thinking of starting a business, I would say keep it to two initially, maybe 3 max. This way, it's just more efficient. There's just so many things to track, especially if you're just starting. That you need some sort of system to track these different client levels and different tiers and what comes with each tier. Now, another one, in terms of how you can tier pricing, it could be also what's known as volume-based tiering, or sometimes it's called volume discount. So, for example, if you sell hourly, you can say if you buy 1 to 50 hours, then I will charge you $150 an hour. If you buy 51 hours, 51 to 100, the hourly rate will drop to 135 from 150. And then if you buy 100 plus hours, then it will be 120 hours. So a pretty significant discount. So you basically gave a 10% discount on the hourly rate if they buy more hours from you, and then you gave a 20% discount from 150 to 120 if they commit to 100 plus hours from you. And you can obviously put some parameters like these 100 hours have to be spent in a couple of months or 3 months or something like that. Don't leave it open-ended. So those are some examples on the way you can tier your pricing. And as I always say, there's no one magic formula in terms of pricing. In this series, we're covering different models, but throughout the series, I'm giving you pros and cons and when I think is best to use the specific model so you can apply it, again, to your business at the stage you're in. Good. So the pros of the tiered pricing is that it gives options. It provides options for clients with different needs and different budgets. It can also increase the perceived value through this tier differentiation. Like if someone, they're fancy, they only buy premium stuff, so they wouldn't just buy standard from you. They'll just buy premium. So in a way, it helps. And there are different. There are different psychological components to this. A lot of times, you'll see this. They have like a very, very, very standard, very, very basic, and they would call it basic because they don't want anyone to buy it. And it will have maybe 3 features, and then they really want you to buy this basic plus. So there are different ways to kind of play with these different things. As you're starting, I think keep it simple, but provide that differentiation. I think it's really important. Now, those are the pros. The cons, it requires, tiered pricing requires careful segmentation and how you position the tiers. It can't be just done randomly. and also you do have the risk of clients opting for the lowered price tiers without understanding the value of the higher tiers. So again, those are things I think if you're starting, you can play with it. You can try this approach for maybe a quarter or two and see what sort of input you're getting from clients, what sort of deals you're getting from clients, and then you can tweak those as maybe you do your quarterly planning or maybe mid-year planning and adjust the tiers. So you have full control over this. So those are the cons. Now, when to use this, I've alluded to this, but I would say this is suitable. This tiered pricing is suitable for service businesses with a range of service offerings. And then if you're catering to a wide variety of needs. Also, if you're starting and you're not sure about pricing, that's totally okay. If you have two pricing points, then if you're not sure if you're going to sell at like let's say you're doing some sort of ongoing recurring something recurring, you're selling some sort of maintenance, you're not sure if it's going to be like, is it 99 or like 199 or like 299? So you can have those on the site, and then you can see what demand there is for each of these, and you can see what customers are buying, and then you can tweak maybe at the end of the year or at the end of the mid-year point, right? So again, if you're starting and unsure, having these different pricing points could help ease the pressure of selecting a price point, and then you don't have to kind of lose sleep over, is it too high, is it too low? So that is on tiered pricing. Let's pause and see what questions we have. With premium, okay, so the question here, thank you for sending this question in. With premium service, are you trying to sell more hours or different things? More hours or different things? I think I say both. Again, depending, if, again, assuming if you are selling hourly, and again, last week we talked about hourly based pricing and the pros and cons of that. But I would say you want to sell more. In business, no sales, no business. So I think you can package a number of hours, even if you're not selling hourly. The way you package your offer, it's going to include support, it's going to include some service delivery. All that's going to translate to hours you're spending on this client. So yes, you can package more hours, you can package more features, you can package more services. That is really up to you. But the idea is, yes, you do want to upsell, you do want to sell more services. So I think that tiered pricing is really suitable and is really a good approach to make it very clear to the customer. Here's what you're getting. You're getting, again, the examples we used earlier, the software company, you're getting bug fixes and 8 to 5 support. Now you want to sell more, you want to sell enhancements, you want to sell maybe you want to sell because you have the infrastructure to do 24/7. And again, if you're just starting out, the infrastructure to support 24/7 is your phone. So that's fine. You can be your own customer support agent, and maybe you can make it 6 a.m. to midnight if you don't want to do 24/7. But the idea is, yes, you do want to package things. You want to offer everything that you can offer, the variety of things you offer. You want to put them in those different packages, maybe against standard and premium. So yes, the answer is trying to sell more of whatever you want to sell. Good. I hope I answered this properly. If you have any specific question around this or more detail, feel free to, again, submit that question in the form. If you don't want your question to be public, or leave a comment, again, on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you're watching, or Facebook. The second model we want to talk about today is retainer. So with retainer pricing, the idea here is that your clients will pay a fixed fee, or maybe sometimes a range, on a recurring basis to retain your services. So it's like having a subscription for ongoing access to your expertise and to your support. So consider a marketing consultant, and they provide a retainer package. So the clients will pay a monthly fee for a specified number of hours on, let's say, social media management or content creation or advertising campaigns. For example, I was speaking with someone yesterday. They on YouTube actually they come in and they charge you a set amount of dollars a month, and they commit to get you I don't know, X number of assets that you can use on your social media off of your YouTube videos. So you are the customer is retaining you to provide a set number of services or a set number of hours or a package of sort. So this model, it brings predictability, and it's really helpful. I love retainer. We built our the one of a couple of the businesses actually on retainer. It offers a steady income for you as a service provider, and in a way, it's valuable for the client as well, because it provides them with, they know the cost, they know what they're paying. It's not fluctuating, so they know that I'm hiring Jane this week, this month, or this quarter, and then I know I have to pay $1,500 a month to have Jane write 3 blog posts and 2 social media posts a week, and she will produce 3 YouTube shorts, for example, making all this stuff up. So that's predictable for you. It's good for you as a consultant, as a service provider. You are getting a steady income, and then it's predictable for the customer. They know the cost. They know what they are on the hook for. So another maybe example here. If you are a graphic design company, you can charge a fixed monthly or sometimes an annual fee for all the branding efforts, the website updates, the marketing material that is needed. Now, when I say all, again, this is something, this is more like a pro tip. You have to set expectations as a service provider. No matter what pricing model you use, you have to put some parameters, so this way you know what you're delivering and you know what's involved, and the customer knows what they're getting. So if you say, yeah, pay me $2,000 a month and I'll take care of all your branding, all your website updates, and all the marketing materials, yes, that's very compelling. But then let's say the customer, when they understand all, oh yeah, we want to start an e-commerce business, and you said, and we want to add that e-commerce module to the website, so we want you to design and develop all of that. I mean, you will lose not only your shirt, you might go out of business if you're contractually, you committed to do all things on their website, and e-commerce wasn't even on your radar. Or if they bought another company and they want to rebrand that company. So when you say all, again, use it and define it in the contract in terms of what's included in this retainer. So again, the pros of this approach here is, as I said, predictability is really good. It's that steady stream now is committed by contract. You have, I used to have 12-month retainer contracts, and even when we first started, I tended, as I think some of you know, and if you're new to the channel, you know that when I was laid off and then I started my own, the very first business, I had zero background in sales, and I had to learn all this stuff from the ground up. And I took a lot of courses and listened to any CD. Yeah, CDs were a thing at the time, to learn about sales. And I remember one of the coaches, Marvin, he said, you got to build a retainer revenue stream for your business. This is as close as to making money when when you sleep. In products, when you develop a product, products are selling and you're making money as you sleep. But in services, you can also, and we'll talk about productization later in this live stream. But if you have this recurring revenue stream, that I have, let's say, even if you're selling something at $100 a month, and if you have 20 clients, that's $2,000 a month. That is almost guaranteed. Of course, you'll have some churn. Of course, you won't retain everyone. You want to strive to retain everyone, but you'll lose some people. But even if your retention is 90% and you're losing 10% of that recurring revenue, you have that steady income, and that is really, really helpful for the business, because it's again, nothing is guaranteed, but it just I think it reduces that retainer revenue, that steady stream, reduces some of the anxiety that founders have on making payroll, and also in terms of growing, in terms of hiring. When you have a steady income, you can hire people to take care of that steady income while you're focusing on growth. So I'm a big Big fan of retainer-based pricing. Again, I don't think there's good or bad pricing models. It's just the different times in your growth stages would require different types of pricing. So that's on the pros. In terms of the cons for retainer pricing, it this model requires a high level of trust between the consultant and the client, especially if it's not tied to hours. Because if it's hours, then you can maybe send your weekly or monthly hourly, like your timesheet. They see the hours. But if it's not tied to hours, some clients might feel like, wait a second, I'm giving them all this money, and what did they do last month? So that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, again, for the service provider, 1 month might be really busy, 1 month, 1 month might be really slow. So on that's what I used to say, like over a span of a quarter or 2 quarters, things even out. So I would put the customer's mind at ease by saying like, hey, we're really, this last month, yes, it was light. We did not do a lot of things a lot of times because the customer did not give us what we needed to do to deliver the work. But I wouldn't say that to them bluntly. But one, maybe a couple of months were slow, a couple of months were really busy, so it sort of evens out. So on the average, everybody is getting a fair, the client is getting value from you, and then you're getting obviously compensated for what you're offering. So the other thing is also in terms of the cons, there's potentially uh, clients, they're busy or their needs fluctuating, then they're not utilizing everything that they're buying from you. And as I said, it's okay for like a month or two, and then you're getting busy. But if, let's say, for 3-4 months, they're just not really growing, or they're not giving you what you need to produce for them, they might just cancel that contract. So you have to be creative if you're using this recurring model, this retainer model, and you're supposed to do things and you can't do things for them because they're not giving you the access to resources, to their staff, or to the material, or whatever the case might be, or they're just traveling, then you have to be really creative in finding ways to do something for the customer and show them the value. Otherwise, they'll cancel the contract. So that's on the cons, but I'm a big fan of this one of retainer based. Now, when to use, I would say it's anytime there is, like, you feel there's an ongoing support, maybe advisory services, maybe maintenance contracts, add-ons. Like sometimes I've seen customers, like let's say you resell a software, part of your consulting or services system. You provide a tool, or you provide a software, or you provide I don't know, some dashboards, whatever the case might be. You can always find ways, almost always find ways, to add a component add-on that hey, you get our maintenance contract, and then if you are on our maintenance contract, you get a discount in the future if you need more services. So there are a lot of creative ways, I think, to create that retainer, even if it's not the main pricing model for you. I think having some sort of retainer, creative ways to get a retainer with clients is really helpful. And think about it. I think kind of in early stage is different than in growth, in a growth stage. So if in an early stage of the business, I think, I mean, there's a lot of uncertainties and a lot of unpredictability because you're new to sales, you're new to marketing, you're new to a lot of things. So a retainer model, can really help get that predictable cash flow. And then in a growth stage, I think these retainer agreements, first, they foster this loyalty, I think, and encourage clients to continue to work with the business, and if they're really happy with your services, they'll be your evangelist. They'll tell their friends, they'll get your referrals. So in a growth stage, having a solid retainer revenue stream for your business will also allow you to start to hire and grow with to cover, like, let's say initially you are spending a lot of time delivering to a few customers, and then you get a retainer out of each of those, let's say 3 customers that you have, and let's say it's a 12-month contract with each one of them. So now, again, barring anything crazy happening, and things things do happen in business, then if you have these 3 customers with a 6-month or a 12-month contract, you know that you have now, you can project the revenue that you'll have from these customers. I would definitely encourage you then to find either part-time or full-time help to service these customers. And this way, yes, you'll take a hit on your profitability because now you have a cost. You just hired someone, but then you can start focusing on growing the business. So maybe you can split your time 50% to deliver with this person that you'll be hiring, and then the rest of the time, the other 50%, you will be focusing on the business, on growing the business, and maybe pursuing other clients and bigger deals and all the good stuff that you should be thinking about, to grow the business. So those are some things you want to think about in terms of growth from a client retention and loyalty perspective, and also from a resource planning and from hiring. These are really good things to think about. And I think there's one other thing to think about here is if you are really I would say like very, very established, this is like later stage, and you're sort of very profitable potentially. Again, these retainers, you could have different lines of service. If you have maybe a niche in one area, and you have a solid retainer and solid revenue, a set of revenue streams from that one area, you can get maybe a director of operations or a director of professional services to run that for you, because you have that revenue stream, and then you can expand and build other areas of specializations in your firm. And I think also one last thing here on retainer, the retainer model is that those you can start selling and you delight the customer and they love you, and especially if the customer themselves in a growth mode, they have a lot more needs. So as they're growing, their needs are growing, and then potentially you can tap into these new areas of growth that the customers have, and provide services. So if you came in to provide, for example, branding, we talked about branding earlier, and then potentially now you're doing graphic design, and potentially you are doing now maybe online marketing. So if the customer is in a growth mode, they use your services initially for that initial corporate branding package that you did, their logo and their taglines and maybe their the collateral, all that good stuff, and their slides presentations and their Canva presentations, all that good stuff, right? And then now they're growing, they need to revamp their website. You do graphic design, you can do that. Now they want to drive traffic to that website, you do online marketing. So you can evolve that relationship that you have, and you can start to fill in. You can start to, and you don't have to. You can start. You don't have to pitch actually, because you're now in a way like in a knee-deep relationship with the customer in a good way, and you're aware of the things they're doing, and then you can obviously start introduce the new services that you are offering. So all that really good. Some of it again not applicable if you're just starting, but build if you can build a retainer, a recurring revenue stream for your business, even if this is not going to be the main way to sell, because in some cases you just do one project and it's done. But if you can be creative and finding some way to have a retainer, I would say do it, because it just for all the benefits that we described earlier. Good. Let's pause and see if we have a question from the community. Can you lose money on a retainer if the client is too demanding? Yes. You can lose money on any of the pricing models. On a retainer, I mean, you're saying two things. Can you lose money on a retainer? Yes. I mentioned something about expectations, and you have to really document what is it that you'll be doing, with some level of specificity. You want to document what the customer should be doing. You have to jot that down. And you also have to document in your statement of work, in your proposal, in your contract, you also have to document dependencies and things that will prerequisites. For example, if you provide, let's say, tax auditing services, or you do accounting services, and you say, I want to come in and complete this work in a month, that initial assessment, and then we have a monthly recurring support services for the next 12 months at $500 a month. If the client does not give you access to their QuickBooks or their accounting system, if they don't sit down with you and explain their business model, if they don't sit down and give you their financial statements, how can you do your audit? How can you set up their accounting system and maintain it for the next 12 months? So and then they get busy, and some of us will have this short-term memory loss syndrome and syndrome, and then they'll come back and say, what happened? It's been 3 weeks and we signed the contract, I've seen nothing. Right? Well, what are you going to tell them? Their director or their VP gave you no information because they're on vacation. So it gets messy. So one thing I've learned, pro tip here, is that any deliverable you have and all the milestones you have in your statement of work, just put a clause, say, from the day we have access to X, Y, and Z, right? So whatever you are going to be needing the client to provide, that that timeline, that commitment from you to them to deliver in 2 weeks, in 3 weeks, in 4 weeks, it has to be based on you having the access to all the resources. So that's in terms of losing money on a retainer. You have to make sure the scope is well defined. Another thing where you could lose money on a retainer is if you underestimated what's involved. So yeah, you said I'll do all of the above for $2,000, and in your mind, okay, that's going to take me 20 hours, and my hourly is at $100. So yeah, 20 times 100, that's $2,000, and that's what you quote. You go in, and now it's taking you 50 hours. Guess what? You have to eat that. You have to it's just going to be another scar, another lesson learned that you'll tell people about in the future, and you'll avoid on your next contract, right? So that is yeah. I mean, you can lose a lot on a retainer, and then when we will be in the June and July timeframe, we'll be talking a lot about delivery, and we'll be covering some of those aspects. So again, subscribe to our channel, follow us on LinkedIn and on YouTube, and subscribe to our daily newsletter, the Daily Advisor, so you're updated on what we're producing there, what we're sharing there. So that's on losing money. Now, the second part of the question is if the client is too demanding. So that there are different flavors of this. Obviously, if things were not very well defined, part of the fault is on you. But some clients are not very nice. Some clients are very demanding. So there are different responses to this. I think early on, if you're just starting, do whatever you can to please the customer. I mean, I would say almost do anything, almost, obviously, nothing illegal, nothing nothing that you wouldn't be comfortable sharing publicly, but bend over backward for your early customers to make sure they're happy. And I just recorded a video yesterday, and we talked about this. So um, hopefully coming out the next few days. But we did talk about this, especially initially. You need the logos, you need the clients, you need to go through the whole sales and delivery cycle, so you can figure out what is required, so you can sell better to the next client, to the second and third client. So I would say initially in the early phases of your business, don't be too picky, bend over backward, take care of that client. They might become your evangelist. And I told a story on the video that I just recorded yesterday on one of our very first clients who were very, very demanding, and how that turned out to be. I won't share. I won't tell you. You got to watch the video to see how that turned out. But I think if you have a 12-month contract, and let's say you're in month 2, and they're driving you nuts, and no matter what you do, they're not happy. I mean, you also, it's a sales and business is a two-way street. So you might want to understand why they're unhappy. You want to understand why they're very, or maybe too demanding, and start to clarify. Like, hey, I said I'll build, for example, we talked about marketing materials, so I'll do your brochures, but I also have other clients. You got to give me a heads up. You can't even give me just all the pictures, and you give me all the content for the brochure. and you expect it in 2 days. I need time to think about it creatively and all that. So I think having conversations with the clients who are too demanding and understand where maybe that expectation mismatch is happening is really important. Again, you gotta try your best. You wanna delight customers at any stage of the business, but early on, you do unscalable things to enable you to get it to a position where you can scale the business. And you hopefully, again, you learn from this, and you set better expectations for the future contracts. And last but not least, at one point, when you're more profitable and when you um, maybe diversified your revenue, you can say no to some customers. As a matter of fact, you can become more profitable if you, in certain very limited cases, you can fire your customers. And again, you do it without burning any bridges. Again, unless someone is doing something illegal, or they're pushing you, or really harassing you and your team members, you have to stand up for that. But at a later stage, you can say no to a customer. You can gracefully say, okay, we have a termination clause. I want to just let it's just not working out for us. Let's just wrap things up in 30 days. And again, deliver on your promises, go above and beyond, end on a good note, and move on. Sometimes just the chemistry is not there, and there's no matter what you do, just you can't make them happy. So these are some thoughts on this. Good question. So next here, and for those of you who maybe joined us a bit later in the episode, we are talking about pricing models. So we covered last week. We covered hourly based, project based, and value based. Today we just talked about tiered pricing, and then we talked about retainer. And now the third pricing model is productization, and then I have a bonus model for you at the end before we wrap up. So on productization, so this is where you package and present services in a way that resembles a product, with the clearly defined features, benefits, and pricing, of course. So the pros of this is that, um, and I'll give you some examples in a bit. Um, you Scalability. You can when you productize services, you can scale more easily. You can, if you're doing a custom project every time, they're just the way when a client comes to you, and you have to gather requirements, you have to spend a lot of time understanding the needs, and you have to do a custom solution within your own domain knowledge and area of expertise. You still have to customize every time around. If you productize, again, a set of features, a set of benefits, a set of outcomes with a specific set of pricing, right? That's what productization is for services. So this way, the pros of this, again, is you can scale because you're having to do less custom work, and that can be, that repeatable business, or that doing the same service in a specific way will help you a lot with scalability. Also, another pro here is that clarity. So with this approach, you have a clear and a standardized service packaging, that just going to it's just going to make it much easier for the client to understand what they're getting and how much it'll cost them. And then there's not a whole lot of confusion involved. So clarity is a second benefit. Another benefit here is efficiency. And when you have these packages, specific set of inputs, specific set of outputs and outcomes, you've standardized these processes and these deliverables. And again, that's just going to make a lot of things more efficient, and it will reduce the time you spend on each client, and would also allow you, especially later on after the very first few clients, you can then build systems and processes that are repeatable. So this is one of the main things that I think um, um, founders struggle with initially, is you have everything in your head, because you marketed, you pitched, you sold, you closed the deal, you delivered, like everything is here. You don't need a system. But over time, as you start to hire, you need you're going to need you're going to engage and use the help of those folks you've hired, and then they don't read your mind, they don't know what's going on here. So you have to turn what's in your head into systems and processes. And now, whether you're using Asana, whether you're using Basecamp, Notion, right, you have a slew of these task management and project management tools. It doesn't matter the tool. We have some recommendations. Leave me a comment if you're not sure which one to use. But when you turned the way you sell and also the way you deliver into a set of tasks in Asana or in Notion, then that's repeatable. And when you're selling the same thing, that's even now it becomes more scalable. And when you have a new hire or a part-time helper or a contractor, now they have that system to follow. So make sure you're using a system for your delivery, your task list for before, let's say, you deliver and implement a project. The other benefit also of this model, of the productization model, is also similar to retainer, is predictable revenue. So with fixed pricing and the way you package these, businesses can forecast revenue more accurately, and then it goes back to that stability and that great forecasting. You're not just projecting and forecasting and predicting blindly. You have a baseline because you're selling those products, and you've done exactly how much you're selling them for. It's not custom, like every time. One project I sell at $2,000, another project at $500, another project at $5,000. It's all over the map. So when you have this productized approach, then you know exactly what's involved in delivering, and also the cost of that delivery, and also the potential revenue that's coming in. So those were all the benefits. In terms of the cons, it's sort of the opposite of what we said. So there's limited customization. So when you offer these productized services, you have to kind of stick to what you're pitching and your positioning. So you can't have the cake and eat it. In a way, you set up a productized model, and then you start doing a lot of custom work. I mean, that's not going to be very helpful. So you'll have limited customization, and some clients might not choose to go with you because they need something very, very customized. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And then potentially, if the client's needs, if you're not adding to the service and maybe addressing the client's needs, some clients might be dissatisfied and not buy those services from you. The other thing is also, think of competitive pressure in a market where maybe there's a lot of people who sell what you sell in what we'd call like a commoditized market. Competing just on price of your product can lead to price wars, and then obviously that will erode your margins. So that's something to keep in mind. And then operationally, this is similar now to the tiered pricing. This is the con here, is that there's the complexity in managing these different. If you have 2-3 different tiers, as we said earlier, you have the 2-3 different sort of product levels. Managing and maintaining different packages can become complex and can require more processes, more systems, more monitoring, and more adjustment. Again, I'm not saying this is bad. It's just my role here is to. I'm not going to come and tell you this is what you got to do for your business. I'm not that guru. I'm more of a guide. I want to help you, share with you what works for me, what works for other founders, what options we have out there, and then you choose what is best for you. And then in next week's episode, the whole live stream will be on a grid, on a matrix we have to help you find the best model for you at the growth level you have in your business today. Good. And then the last thing I want to talk about in terms of the cons here, of the productization aspect, is customer expectations. So again, clients might expect, some customization, some flexibility. They might, we've been a customer of yours for 3 years now, and we're happy. But hey, our needs are evolving, and we need something beyond this. We're going to go somewhere else if you don't improve your product. And the improvement this one customer might be looking for, it's something that you might know, but it's you want to do it maybe 6 months from now, not right away. So there is a risk of losing or maybe dissatisfying some customers. So not easy, but business is not easy despite what you hear on YouTube. You gotta always pivot, and you gotta always um, evolve and kind of reinvent things. And hopefully some of the tips here we're sharing with you will apply to you, and then you can get to success, and we can make it easier for you, less difficult. So in terms of what when to use here, before we go to the next and the last pricing model, in terms of when to use this, I think it's going to depend on the stage of the business you're in. So in an early stage, I think this productization of a service can give very clear value. Like here's the value proposition, and people know exactly what you're buying, what they're buying, and then you know what you're delivering. So again, the whole if you're not sure about pricing and what to offer, if you have a couple of productized services, then you're good to go there. And then at a growth stage, similar to what we said earlier with the retainer, this productization can help maintain consistency and scalability. And as you get more efficient in the way you deliver, your profitability margin, your margin, your profitability is just going to go higher and higher. So let me give you a very specific example here on how you'd productize something that maybe is not maybe conventional, or maybe it's not intuitive, that this is like, how do I productize legal services. So let's do that. Let me just see if we have any comments. I think we have a question. We'll come to it in a second here. Okay, so let me finish this section first. So in terms of productizing your services, so let's think of a legal company, legal firm, and let's say they have a package for startups. Hold on, okay, I want to make sure. Yeah, no issue with the camera. Um, let's say we have a legal services firm, and they have this first package. It's called the Startup Essentials package, right? So this is for startups. They for example include the legal entity formation service as part of the package. They'll set you up as an LLC or as an S corp or a C corp, what have you. They can also help you draft a set of contracts, the standard contract that you'll need. Maybe the client agreement, the non-disclosure agreement, maybe the contractor agreement, and maybe the employment agreement. And then if you have something to trademark, maybe they'll add that as a trademark registration. And they'll say you'll get all of that for a flat fee of $2,500. So that would be the cost of a startup essentials package. And some of the legal services, some of the legal online, they have similar things. So again, I'm don't quote me on these numbers, but that's one idea for if you have a law firm. That's how you would package things. Now, you can have another package called contract compliance. It also could be an add-on to the first one, or it could be targeted to a medium-sized business. And let's say this package includes contract review, compliance, maybe one compliance audit per quarter, and then anything on maybe specific legal advice on regulatory matters. And that could be a monthly retainer of $1,500 a month. So again, if you're not in the legal field, think of ways you can offer these products on your website, or on your LinkedIn profile, or on your Upwork, whatever mechanism you're using to promote the business. A more advanced product for this legal firm is something, let's say, litigation defense package. So this will be obviously most likely tailored for large corporations. This package includes, for example, representation in court, in litigation matters. It could include dispute resolution. It could also include maybe strategic legal counsel. They can help you be better prepared. They can keep you up to speed on what's going on in your industry, especially if like privacy considerations. You have to maybe amend your contracts. All of that could be part of this package, and this could be priced at an hourly rate of $300 with a retainer fee of $5,000. So that would be like another product, right? So here's a prospective client scenario. So let's say you have a small business owner, John, who needs legal assistance to set up his new venture. So John comes across this startup essentials package offered by our legal services firm. The fixed price for that is $2,500. Now John has some peace of mind. He doesn't have to worry about the hourly rate. And if this is too high, too low, do I do it? Do I do it with this lawyer or with the other? This guy, this law firm is going to offer me this whole package for $2,500, and then um, and then you engage that firm, and knowing exactly what this firm will do for them. Done, and he'll pay that, and he's done with all that foundational legal work. Now, the benefits to the firm is that they know exactly what they're delivering. They probably have some templates, some questionnaires. They probably have maybe an article on their blog on the difference between an LLC and a C corp and an S corp. They have maybe a short video helping their client. This could be also behind like a login if you don't want to make it public. So from the firm's perspective, it's efficient. They know what they've sold. They have processes and systems to for all that intake and take all that information from the client and turn it into, again, the legal contract that they've committed to. And then the client here, from a client perspective, client satisfaction perspective, it's clear, pricing is transparent, um, uncertainty, no, it eliminates uncertainty and any sort of surprises to the for the clients, and they're likely to now recommend this legal services to other friends of theirs. Now, also from a competitive advantage perspective, when you offer these productized services, the firm distinguishes itself from competitors and attracts clients who are they've clients who value simplicity, clarity, and maybe they're cost sensitive. So again, uh, it doesn't work for everyone. This productized approach, you might want to do a few projects, and maybe 6 months in the business, 1 year in the business, you go back and package things. But it is something that I've seen done well, and it takes again the confusion. It takes the concerns, in terms of like how much do I pay hourly, or what's this project going to cost me. It makes it very clear what is it that the vendor is delivering and what is it that the customer is getting. All right, let's pause for a question, and then we move on to the bonus pricing model. The question is, can you mix productized and customized service offerings? Yes. You see this a lot in some SaaS companies. You'll see, again, bronze, gold, platinum, and they say a lot of the SaaS companies, they say if you have like 1 to 5 users, if it's one user, free. If it's 2 to 5, this price point. If it is 6 to 20, and then for the large enterprise, contact sales. So in a way, they have their productized offering, and then they have one that is customized. So that is definitely something that you can do. So from a positioning perspective, sorry, from a pricing perspective, the answer is yes. I think the pro tip here is, if you're building your business, you want to be careful when you're building your business. If you're building the business and the processes and the people you're hiring around providing productized services, that's one way to build a business. And if you're building a business where you're doing a lot of customization, that's a different type of business. So mixing these two initially might be, I would say, not advisable, not recommended. I would not recommend that at all, actually. But later, as you build either a highly successful, a profitable business where you've done a lot of customization in all your projects, or if you've done just your productized things and you've done well there, I think once you figured out one of these models and you're getting the revenue and you're getting the testimonials and you're getting repeat customers and you're getting referrals, those are all signs that you've done well. And obviously you're getting the profits as well. If once you get there, I think you can then consider adding the opposite of it, because custom and product, sort of two opposite end of the spectrum here. So I would not try both at the same time. Build a business based on one, and then over time you can offer something. And now when you get a new customer in, your people, you and the people who are delivering, your team who's delivering the service, it's clear to them how to deal with this new project or this new contract that came in. Otherwise, it could be really, really confusing. And actually, I want to be careful of the time here because I can tell a bunch of stories here from the trenches on how I messed this one up big time. We're trying to kind of just to get customers and to buy and all that, to get more customers and get more revenue, ended up really creating a mess for my team who's delivering. They didn't know which client is in which tier and which client is custom versus product. So we then streamlined all of that, and then everybody became happy with me after a while. I did acknowledge that I made a mistake. All right, good. So let's wrap it up with our fourth model, the bonus model. It's performance-based pricing. So what does that mean? This is where customers are charged based on the results they achieve. So this approach ties the price to a specific value metric. For example, so the number of leads you'll generate for your clients if you're in the lead generating services business, or the savings realized through the use of your product, and many, many other examples. So this pricing model is often used to incentivize customers to buy more or better products or services, because they pay you based on your performance. Uh, so so I've seen this in different industries and different products, software, physical products across the board. So give you an example. A lead generation firm, they come in and they say, we're all about performance-based pricing. So we will make sure we improve your outreach efforts. You're just you're just awful at cold calling, like I was initially. You don't want to do cold calling, so you hire this lead generation firm, and they say instead of charging a fixed fee, the firm will agree to receive compensation based on the achievement of a specific key performance indicator (KPI) agreed upon by the client. So um, let's say, for example, they'll charge you an initial $1,000 or $2,000 to set up your business, understand what your target audience, what kind of leads you're looking for, and then they will say, we will charge you $250 per lead, with a range of, let's say, 3 to 5 leads every week. So you don't have to pay for leads until you get them. That's the beauty of this model, and these are the pros. So you're aligning the alignment that can be achieved between the buyers and their goals, and the sellers and their goals, right? You want leads, and they're getting paid when they get your leads. Uh, Performance-based pricing is also, think of it like an insurance policy for both sellers and buyers. The risk is shared between these two parties, and it makes sure that the service provider, if you're selling that service, you're not charging too little for their services, or and the providers, they get paid more, like when they deliver, when they get paid more when they do more work or sell more products. And then you, as the buyer, you're protected from paying too much. So that's something to consider in terms of sort of like a win-win situation. There's some cons I'm going to cover in a second. um, the other pro here, the other benefit, is that it forces clarity. So uh, sometimes simple contractual agreements, they don't force the buyer and seller to communicate in depth and really understand the business models, and what winning is or what winning is like. But performance-based pricing, these arrangements, they're generally very intricate, very detail oriented. Both parties, in a way, are forced to deal with one another's limitations, objectives, and trade-offs. It also, another benefit here, that in a way it incentivizes excellence, like everybody here, because we have a common goal, we have a shared goal. the service providers are incentivized to excel and go above and beyond to deliver more to you because they're getting paid more, and they know that their compensation is tied to the performance metrics that they've agreed upon, with the client. So those are all the benefits. Now, the cons are, it is a bit more complicated. This performance based pricing is a bit more complicated than some of the other models. So just similar to like usage based pricing and the guarantees here, like the actual amount cannot be determined until after the delivery. So if you're the service provider and you can't get, in this lead generation example, you can't get leads to your customer, you're not getting paid. So that's problematic, right? um, the other thing is here, I think there's more potential for disputes than other models. So disagreements might arise between the client and the provider because of the way the interpretation of what these performance metrics is. So or maybe also sometimes like the attribution of the outcomes is disputed, like, oh, this we got to this lead, and the client said, no, I know this lead, he knew me, he came to me um, based on my networking events that I attended. So there's more potential for disputes here. And then if you are the seller of this service, this model is not ideal if you desperately need short-term cash right away, because in other models, when you sign the deal, you can get some of that money, maybe 50% upfront. With this performance-based model, a good chunk or most of that money is coming later as you deliver. So keep that in mind if you're choosing this model. Now, when to use this model? I think this model works best when you can document the outcomes of your work and agree on the payment structure in with a lot of details. I talked about expectations and expectation management in sales and documenting all those expectations. So this is actually even more important because your money, like the value and your compensation is directly tied to the outcome, and especially if you don't control some of the pieces of you doing your work, your ability to deliver could be impacted by factors outside of your control, and that's going to impact obviously your revenue. So I'll give you an example. If let's say you do search engine optimization, SEO services for websites, and you're so good at it and you've done it, and maybe the industry of the clients you're pitching, you can promise to increase their traffic and obviously their Google ranking, or maybe whatever metric you and them agree to, and then you can charge the price you want. This model is often complicated and can help people work together better, which again, because we have a common goal, and can lead to better results. But since how well the project is doing can be hard to measure, like if you're working doing all this SEO work and you're expecting the client to provide you with articles and content and they don't, then you're not going to be able to rank them on some new keywords. So again, yes, the goals are common and shared. Yes, you're working together, but if the client is not responsive, then that's going to impact on your ability to collect on the hard work that you've done. So again, I think it's best to either, I would say, speak with someone who's done performance based pricing before you buy, if you're the buyer. But if you are a service provider and listen to this episode here, make sure, talk to others who've sold the same way you're thinking of selling. There's a lot of stuff. Need to reach out to us if you have a specific question, but make sure the contract is detailed, in the way you measure success and outcomes, all of the factors contributing to that success. Make sure you have a whole lot of control over. Otherwise, you can end up doing a lot of work and not getting compensated. All right. So that is it on pricing here, and performance-based pricing. I'll wrap it up here in a minute, but before we do that, let's see what questions we have on performance-based or on other things we've covered today. All right, I see. Yeah, we have a question. Are there any other types of consultants besides management consultants or lead generation consultants or um, who can use value-based pricing? So I might have mentioned management consult. I mean, a lot of what I mean, all the examples I mentioned, they're just examples. Of course, they're applicable to many other businesses. So I would say value. So 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 value-based pricing we covered last week with a lot of we covered it in depth. But basically, you're not selling hourly. You're not saying, okay, even if something takes you like 3 hours, you might be selling this at $3,000 just because you're very good at it and you can deliver it, and the client needs that service maybe right away, or they know that you're the person who can fix it, and they just want to get this thing fixed. So that's value-based pricing. Uh, many businesses use it. Like many, I think if you're an established accomplished consultant, if you're an accomplished maybe speaker, if you are, I can tell you, and I mentioned this before, we had a little squirrel in the attic here once, and I called people to come and help out to resolve this challenge for us. I couldn't do it on my own, and one person said, hey, $800. I spoke with them around, like, it was like 5:30 in the afternoon, and they said they'll come out that evening and take care of it right away, but they have a premium on their service. So it doesn't matter, I think, what service you have. If you're really good at it, and if you can go in and efficiently and effectively solve the problem for the client, you can charge, you can do value based. Doesn't have to be management consultants. All right. But we did cover value-based pricing extensively last week, so check out that live stream. Cool. So to wrap up here, as I said earlier, no single pricing model fits all situations, and sometimes providers and consultants, they blend different approaches. That to find the best pricing structure for your business, you sometimes have and need to try various models, and that's okay. Business sometimes, or and a lot of times, is about experimentation, and I think um, understanding what other people also do in your industry, your competitors specifically, and how they sell and how they price is important. I'm not saying you blindly follow how they price. Don't do that. Actually, price based on what you think is best for you. But be aware that when you're getting bids and when people are talking to competitors, they're seeing, your customers are seeing how other consultants and how other service providers are selling and their pricing models. So if you have a different approach, completely different approach than everyone else, you want to be able to show why you're different and how you provide the client with the peace of mind and the solution they're looking for, and why the value of the way you price. So yeah, we will have one more session on pricing next week, and in that session we'll talk about a matrix, a grid that we have at Startup with Ferris on how to find the right pricing model for you at the stage of growth that you're in. So hopefully you can tune in. So follow us on YouTube. The channel is Startup with Ferris. Ferris, like my first name, Feras, and go to our website, startupwithferris.com, and sign up with the Daily Advisor. It's our daily newsletter. We share tips and strategies for entrepreneurs who want to either have an idea and they want to turn it into a business, or they've started a business and they're struggling, they can't grow, they can't scale. You'll find a lot of tips, a lot of helpful content in the newsletter. So hopefully you go there and sign up for that newsletter. And then if you're liking this content, hit the like button, and we will see you next week. Have a good one.